Hello and welcome back into another Arthurian Legends video. You're watching Parry This. Today we will be discussing my personal favorite of all of King Arthur's Knights of the Round Table, no other than Sir Gawain the True. His character takes many different paths depending on the telling, sometimes as a prince out of the north, others as King Arthur's nephew, and in some, both. But one thing that remains constant whether out of the original folklore or later stories is that Sir Gawain is and was King Arthur's most loyal knight, and is in fact the best symbol of true chivalry, a measuring stick against which all other knights are held. So let's dive on in and learn a bit more about this paragon of knighthood. Sir Gawain was generally said to be the nephew of King Arthur. Gawain's parents were King Lot of Orkney and Morgause. Upon the death of King Lot, Gawain became the head of the Orkney clan, which includes in many sources his brothers Agravain, Gaheris, and Gareth, and his half-brother Mordred. Various different stories make Gawain Welsh or a Scot in turns, but he is generally depicted as being tall, fair-skinned, muscular, with red hair and a full beard. Gawain appeared in the earliest Arthurian literature as a model of knightly perfection against whom all other knights were measured. In the 12th century Historia Regum Britanniae by Geoffrey of Monmouth, Gawain was Arthur's ambassador to Rome. His name is carved against one of the figures on the 12th century archivolt of Modena Cathedral in Italy. In the verse romances of Chrétien de Troyes in the 12th century, he was never a hero but always a leading character who displayed outstanding prowess, which was, however, surpassed by that of Lancelot, who was inspired by the power of courtly love, and by that of the Grail winner Percivale, who received spiritual inspiration. It is, however, noted in several tales that Sir Gawain was the only knight, other than Arthur himself, who was allowed and worthy to wield Excalibur in battle, and on several occasions he did just that. Though Lancelot is often referred to as the greatest knight, Gawain is also referred to as the greatest knight of the Round Table on occasion, and is most recognized from Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. It seemed to be common knowledge that Sir Gawain was also the most trusted friend of Sir Lancelot, and in some legends, he seems to be the rightful heir to the throne of Camelot once King Arthur passes. However, the accidental death of Gawain's brother, Sir Gareth, at Sir Lancelot's hands, caused Gawain, one of the mightiest warriors at the court, to become the bitter enemy of his once greatest friend, Lancelot. Sir Gawain figures prominently in many romances and adventure tales. In the French traditions, he is generally presented as one who has adventures paralleling but not overshadowing the heroes, whether that hero be Lancelot or Percivale. So, more so a supporting actor of the story than anything else. Historically speaking, this of course makes perfect sense for a multitude of reasons, the primary of which being simply that Lancelot was said to be a French knight, a prince even, and therefore Lancelot is more famous than even King Arthur is in France. And this has been the case since long before the common man could read or write. The secondary reason for this geographical divide in Gawain's stories is that his character was antithetical to the French ideal of romance and courtship in the medieval period and afterwards. He was a staunch supporter of traditional monogamous relationships and the responsibilities and sacred institutions of marriage. This led him to become an enemy of Lancelot after Lancelot's betrayal of King Arthur's trust and the ensuing affair between Lancelot and Guinevere. This type of character did not fit well in French wine sinks and taverns, and so was therefore relegated to being a side character, or sometimes even an antagonist in many French tellings, but we'll touch more on that later. In the English tradition, however, it is much more common for Gawain to be the principal hero and the exemplar of courtesy and chivalry, as he is in Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, and the other Arthurian romances of the alliterative revival. Traditionally, Gawain, in particular of all of Arthur's knights, is known for his courteousness, compassion, and humility. In Gawain, his reputation, his courtesy, and his appearance, in Chaucer's Squire's Tale, B.J. Whitting collected quantitative evidence of this quality being stronger in Gawain than in any of the other Knights of the Round Table, counting the words courteous, courtesy, and courteously being used in reference to Arthur's nephew as 178 times in total. That is more than all of the other knights combined in Arthurian literature. The prose Lancelot, from the Vulgate cycle describes Gawain as the most handsome of his brothers, and notably gracious towards the poor people and to societal outcasts, such as lepers. In some versions of the legend, Gawain would have been the true and rightful heir to the throne of Camelot, after the reign of King Arthur, had Camelot not then subsequently fallen. According to the Vulgate Mort R2, Gawain had been baptized as an infant by a miracle-working holy man, whose name was also Gawain, who named the boy after himself, and the following day announced that every day at noon, at the hour of the baptism, his power and strength would increase. His knowledge of herbs also makes him a great healer, as shown in Chrétien's Percivale, Valvin's Pater, Parcivale Valvain, and the Dutch Lancelot compilation. In Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, Gawain's persona is also said to be founded in a deep Christian belief in Christ and the Virgin Mary. Through many of these tales, Sir Gawain is depicted as both an incredible warrior, but also a talented and caring healer. I believe that Sir Gawain is much, if not all, of the inspiration behind Tolkien's character of Aragorn, as this is also how Aragorn is depicted in Tolkien's works. In fact, there are entire chapters where the main subject is Aragorn's skill and tendency at healing. To me, these always were very reminiscent of Sir Gawain in English tales. This interesting split in how this character is remembered and depicted is one of the most interesting parts about this character for me. In English, Scottish, and Welsh tales, the character always remained a respectable and heroic figure, oftentimes being considered the greatest and truest of Arthur's knights. There are many tales of his courage, selflessness, and humility, and especially his heroism. Sometimes he is the main character. Sometimes he is a supporting character. Sometimes he is a minor character, but always he is a great knight and an extraordinary man. He is never made out to be near angelic, as Percivale is sometimes depicted, and never said to possess superhuman strength or unheard-of fighting abilities, such as Lancelot, but he is often considered the greatest warrior of all time. What makes all of this so interesting, however, is the contrast in French tellings. As I previously touched on, the French have a different role for Gawain. He usually takes a backseat and is relatively unimportant when he's even mentioned at all. That is, unless, of course, he is used as a foil to the better traits of characters such as Lancelot or Percivale, or even worse, is straight up depicted as the antagonist. I will not go too far into depth with this alternative version of Gawain, as I feel it is not true to the character, and is fabricated by those who are morally or historically opposed to that which the character of Sir Gawain has always stood for. In short, in later tellings, starting with the Vulgate Quest to San Graal, Gawain begins to be used as an example of the unfitness of secular knighthood. Gawain is blamed for his irreligion and is shown to indulge in purposeless killing. For example, he mortally wounds his relative and a fellow knight of the Round Table, Gawain the Bastard, in one of the many random jousting duels that happen for no particular reason, just as he is also responsible for the deaths of more of his fellow Round Table companions, including the young King Bagdemagus of Gore, whom he accidentally kills during a tournament. The Vulgate Mort R2 even says Gawain had killed some of his fellow knights of the Round Table during the quest for the Holy Grail, of which he turned out to be unworthy to achieve. In the end, his unwillingness to forgive Lancelot leads to his own death and contributes to the downfall of Arthur's kingdom, this being in stark contrast with traditional tellings where he forgave Lancelot even before Arthur did. In the post-Vulgate cycle, Gawain's character is further blackened, highly influenced by his portrayal as a villain in the prose Tristan. He is now bloodthirsty and often murderous. Among important knights of the Round Table whom Gawain is said to have killed during and after the Grail quest are King Pelinor's son Aglavol, King Locke's son Eric, and King Esclabor's son Palamedes. Earlier, Gawain and his brothers are also the slayers of King Pellinor and his sons Dryant and Lamorat. Although Gawain still has a reputation for being one of the best and most courteous knights in the world in these stories, it is shown that this is a sham, as he is often secretly a rapist of damsels and a killer of good knights, no better than his brother Agravain. When the mighty and holy Grail Knight Percivale asks Gawain if he had killed his father Pellinor, Gawain simply lies and denies it out of fear of him. As you may be able to tell, this shift in Gawain's character and depiction is almost certainly in an attempt to make Lancelot's crimes appear less severe, despite still acknowledging them, because they play such an integral role in most of the stories and a driving force behind the fall of Camelot. This depiction sometimes carries through even to modern media, where at the very least Gawain is depicted as boorish, stupid, rude, arrogant, or sometimes yet, the villain. However, despite the attempt to frame him as a lesser knight, or even a villain, Gawain's reputation remains sterling in much of the Arthurian community. He is known to this day as Sir Gawain the True, or even, as is seen in many tales, the Maiden's Knight. As this name might suggest, he is often characterized as the champion and, if needs be, defender of all women. This is often displayed in the types of stories in which Sir Gawain is often found in, which quite frequently revolve around saving or helping in some way a damsel in distress. More often than not, one whom he doesn't even know, and has no connection with, and nearly always without any reward in mind, and more often than not, if one is offered, he refuses it, as he believes it is his duty as a knight to defend the innocent. As far as modern media goes, I will of course recommend the poem, which I have mentioned several times, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, which I feel depicts him most faithfully out of any adaptation, showing a flawed human who is also a true knight. Of these versions, I of course recommend, above all others, the J.R.R. Tolkien version. I will also recommend the Squire's Tales series by Gerald Morris, in which Sir Gawain figures prominently. If you want to watch something with him in it, there is the 1981 film Excalibur, where he is actually played by a young Liam Neeson, so that's pretty interesting. There is also a 1991 television adaptation of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, which I believe is most faithful to his character out of all on-screen appearances. He is of course also present and somewhat well represented in the 2008 series Merlin, where his story is somewhat different from the source material, but the character remains true. While there is much more to say about Sir Gawain and the legends and history surrounding him, I will leave it where it is. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you found it both educational and entertaining. Who is your favorite Knight of the Round Table? I would love to know who it is and why down in the comment section below. But in any case, thank you for watching, and have a nice day, and I'll see you next time.